What is up, guys? I apologize for the delay, but I am back. We had our baby, beautiful little Cody Jane Hurt, so we've taken some time to enjoy that. The first week of her life has been awesome, and I appreciate everyone who has reached out. But we are now back to your regular programming. My guest in this episode is Corey Turner. Corey is an awesome dude. He's a guy I met on Instagram. He has a new clothing brand called Faith Over Fear. He's a dad, he's a husband, and we basically just shot the shit about all kinds of interesting topics, culture, politics, masculinity, you name it. I really enjoyed my conversation with Corey. He also has a podcast. I'll make sure I link to it in the description for this episode. And like I said, we are back to our regular programming, so I'll be dropping episodes regularly again. Last thing, this episode is brought to you by the Wellness Company, okay? twc.health/freemind. They are an amazing company that offers many different health solutions in this crazy era where big pharma and traditional medicine is out for profits over health. So check out the Wellness Company. They have all kinds of things from emergency wellness kits, emergency medical kits that have medications that are necessary and sometimes hard to get when you have things like a global pandemic pushed by companies that want to profit off of your despair. And you try to get something like ivermectin and it's next to impossible. So many different beneficial products. They have a supplement that helps clear the spike protein from your body, whether you've gotten the shot or you've had COVID. It's beneficial. Anyway, check them out, the Wellness Company, twc.health/freemind. Without further ado, let's get into this thing with Corey Turner. Corey, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. So we are Instagram friends. We met on social media and obviously have a lot of shared beliefs, a lot of shared values, and kind of started talking about you coming on the show, and here we are. So tell me a little about yourself, or I guess my listeners, a little about yourself and what you got going on, brother.
So I am I do a lot of things. So I'm born and raised in Vegas, and I moved to Southern Utah because the whole COVID thing happened. And my wife and I, we didn't want to play the game, really. So we went somewhere where they weren't playing the game as hard. The goal was to move to Texas because they weren't playing the game at all. But we ended up in Southern Utah because we passed through here a few times before that. And my wife is a horse nut. She loves horses, and she'd done rodeo and barrel racing as a kid, and they have a really good barrel racing scene out here. So her and my daughter bought a few horses, and now they ride horses, and that's how we ended up in Southern Utah. And I mean, what else is there? There's so much to talk about. I have my background is pretty crazy.
Yeah. So, as many of us did experience a lot of life changes due to COVID and everything, it sounds like you guys did, and ended up where you are. And I know you have Faith Over Fear, and I definitely wanted to talk about that. And if I'm not mistaken, you're a BJJ practitioner as well. So I think when I posted that I was trying out a class, you had responded to me back then.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I just like talking to like-minded people. So, we can talk about faith, which is a new development in my life. It's something I've been very open about, with my own journey. And so I'd love to hear about yours and family and everything else. So I guess first, tell me about the podcast and what Faith Over Fear is.
So In 2018, you're right. I do practice BJJ, and from 28 or 2014 or 2013 to 2018, I actually competed in MMA. And then 2018, I got a gnarly injury. I got a lacerated pancreas, and it
Ooh.
lacerated the duct. So there's a big duct across your pancreas inside that, you know, basically all the bile moves to there, and then it goes to your stomach, and that lacerated. Nearly killed me twice. The first time I went septic, liver failure, kidney failure, and I ended up coming back. That my wife and I actually got married in the ER
Whoa.
because, yeah, the doctor told her I'm not really close with my immediate family, and the doctor told her, he said we might have to make some decisions. So are you married? And they're like, she's like, no, we're not. And so we got married in the ER so she'd be able to make those decisions for me because she knew what I wanted.
So how
And
long had you guys been together up until that point?
nearly 2 years. So we got together in November of 2016, and this happened in April or March of 2018. So just a
Wow.
little over a year and a half.
Had you talked about marriage at all up until that point? Or, I mean,
No, we hadn't. We hadn't, right? Because I got married out of high school. I got my high school girlfriend pregnant, and that was a wreck. I ended up in the military. She ended up staying home with, you know, her new boyfriend. I came out of the
mm,
military, and I rebound married because, you know, I didn't want to be by myself and things like that. So I rebound married for 12 years, and God, we were oil and water. We just did not mix. I came out with PTSD from the military, and I was trying to navigate that as well as this other personality,
mhm.
and I didn't want to get married again. I actually, it was like late 2016, my second marriage had, or early 2016, I had actually gotten a divorce, and I didn't want to do that, right? Like I just wanted to be with somebody and share my
Mhm.
life, and she was down for that. But when this came in, it was like kind of a sign, like, hey, let's do this, because we were already all in. We dated. We went on 2 dates, and I told her all my baggage. She told me all her baggage. I was like, I want to build a life, uh, you know, that people want to be inspired by. I
Right.
want to raise kids in a great environment. I didn't have the greatest childhood. You know, there's a lot of abuse, a lot of adultery. Not to say that I didn't learn from all that, but I didn't want to do that,
Mhm.
right? And she didn't want to do that either. She grew up in the exact opposite. Her parents were together until her early teen or late teens, and she had a great life. You know, we have a joke because I grew up in a trailer park, and she grew up in a trailer while her parents were building their multi-million-dollar home.
So at least you both lived in a trailer though.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
That
Just
was like,
coming from different places.
yeah, that was our common bond, is living in a trailer.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, when that happened, it was kind of, you know, when life decisions need to be made, like you need somebody who's down for you and knows your in and outs to make those decisions for you. And we got married in the ER, and then a year later we had a really big wedding, and then I got sick again from the same injury, and I was in the hospital for 6 weeks after that. And, you know, when somebody, like, one, marries you in the ER, and then two, sticks with you when you are like fucking dying,
Yeah.
you know, a year later from the same thing, you know, there, and plus we had a new child. So she was juggling so many things, and she handled it with, I mean, the most elegance. I mean, there was times where she wanted to break down, and she did. She let me know that
Yeah.
if she, how mad she would be if I died on her, because, you know, I left her with all these things, you know, raise 3 kids, and, you know, do all these dreams that we said we were going to do together. You know, she was threatening me that if I died, she'd kill me. So, you
So
know, she,
where does the issue stand now, the health issue? Is it in a good place, or is it something you have to constantly, monitor, get checked out?
so I voluntarily get it checked out. I get all my blood work done once a year just to be sure.
Mhm.
But in 2019, this is kind of where faith over fear came from, is they had no idea what to do. No idea what to do. They tried putting stents in. I had like 4 surgeries with stents. Nothing was going on. And I was supposed to go to UCSF because I was in the VA hospital in San Francisco. And I called my wife and I broke down. I was like, my neighbor next to me has a bowel issue, shitting himself, and I'm in this terrible place. And I've lost all this weight. I'm weighing 155 pounds at this time, and I'm breaking down. I call her and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck to do. And she's like, well, do you want to live or you want to die? And I was like, well, I want to live, And she's like, well, you got to have fucking faith. Stop pouting about it and just have faith. See yourself getting past this and see us here where we are now, literally raising, our kids on a ranch, doing horse shit, Scarlett and Samantha doing barrel races, Bodie growing up around horses and having all these tons of friends. She's like, see that, have faith that that's going to happen. Because if you sit here and you juggle these two things, you're either going to die or going to live. That's it. There's no other option. And she's like, you got to have faith. And I was like, she's like, you have faith over fear. You can't be fearful. And from that moment, I just changed my mindset. I sat back in bed. I listened to a bunch of meditations. And because I was on a Dilaudid drip, so it was really easy for me to tune into shit. And then I just changed my mind. I changed my mind. And they told me I was 2 weeks out from going to UCSF. And then I had to wait there for, anywhere from 2 weeks to a month before I could be seen by a doctor. And the nurse came in a couple days later and I was like, hey, I'm going to go home by June 1st. And she's like, that's cute. That's real cute. But she's like, we got to get you to UCSF first. And they don't have a bed for you for another 2 or 3 weeks. And I was like, no, they'll have one tonight. And at 11:30, they came in my room and was like, hey, a bed opened up. You're going to UCSF. I said, sweet, let's do it. Went to UCSF. And as soon as I got there, I was telling nurses, hey, I'm going to go home by June 1st to let the doctors know that they need to get their shit together. And they had my surgery scheduled for like the 24th of May. So I was like, fits right within my window to go home June 1st. They do this. They called me the morning of the 24th. It was like, hey, we have to reschedule your surgery for 3 days. So I ended up doing the surgery on the 27th. And they're like, you need at least 2 to 3 weeks in this hospital for recovery. I said, all right, I'm going to go home June 1st. Again, the nurses are like, that's cute. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I have faith. This is going to happen because my wife told me to have faith, and I'm going to have faith, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it my way. So May 31st comes around. The nurse comes in and she says, I have good news and I have bad news. And actually, no, I'm sorry, May 30th. She's like, I have good news and bad news. And I was like, what's the bad news? She's like, we can't get you home by June 1st. She's like, it's just not going to happen. And I was like, all right, well, what's the good news? Cheer me up now. She's like, we can get you home tomorrow. I said, I told you. She's like, you sure did. It's like none of us, we all had running bets that you wouldn't leave here until the end of June. And here you are. You said you were going to leave June 1st. And I was like, yeah, because I had faith over fear. And then we turned that into a lifestyle. When 2020 happened, we were like, we don't want to live in this cesspool of fear. First of all, it's Sin City. It's a great city to visit.
Right.
And I'm born and raised there. So it's like, I've seen all the stuff. I've done all the things. I lived my 20s there, and it was like, yeah, it's time to move on. I didn't want to raise my kids there because I grew up in that education system, and I think they're like second to last in the country. So, got out of there, and we had this plan. So I lost my job in 2020 because of COVID, because I was in hospitality, and I was redoing my VA benefits, and in September, they upped my percentage to 100%. So I got, I think, 8 months of back pay, and we bought a house in Utah. So we were like, that was the sign. Let's go. So, and then we moved here, and we've really been trying to put together this brand, and my wife and my daughter are out here barrel racing, and we're trying to spread the message, and that's what I do through my podcast. And really, there's a lot of people out there that they're not pushing the fear, they're just highlighting it.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, look what everyone's doing. Some of the Republican influencers are the fucking worst, because
Yeah.
they're all trying to slang merchandise, and they're like, look what they're doing, they're doing this, they're doing that. It's like, okay, they're doing that. First of all, they're getting free PR because you're promoting it. Second, what's the solution?
Right. You're just capitalizing on the hysteria and,
Yeah.
and trying to make money selling shit. Yeah, that's one thing that drives me crazy about that whole world. And like a good example is the Trump mugshot thing. There was
Yeah.
immediately all these quote conservative, Republican, whatever influencers, America First influencers, who were selling Trump mugshot t-shirts like the day it came out. Like they had their finger fucking ready. And I'm like, or you can support the actual candidate and go buy the t-shirt from him, and the money
Right.
will go to his campaign. But none of you people are telling anybody to do that. You're trying to make a quick buck off of this controversial thing that's in the zeitgeist. And it's gross, man. It really, this whole and I hate the word influencer anyway, but this whole sphere of people that I've gotten to know over the past few years through doing this and some other stuff is like almost all of them are just trying to profit off of the fear.
Yeah. And that's not what I'm trying to do. Like I have 12 podcasts up right now, and they're all about, embetterment. I see you wearing Force Form, so you obviously listen to Andy Frisella, right?
Yep.
And his message all the time, it's the same thing. It's personal excellence, accountability, right? Like I have things that I go by, like DCA, discipline, consistency, accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's my structure. And how do I share that message, right? Like we give a scenario. I think the next one I'm doing is about emotions, right? And the influencer sphere is like, emotions don't matter, it's just facts. And then they'll put on a clip of some leftists on this huge tangent and say their feelings don't matter. Okay, but what are the facts?
Right.
Like
Right.
how do you overcome that? Like take that, and what they're doing is the same. They're polarizing, right? The leftist is going in there and screaming and doing all this stuff, and then the people on the right are like, well, they're wrong. It's like, no, you take that and you can't have a conversation with that person. So you have a conversation to an audience about that person and about how they can resolve whatever issue that they're having, that mental breakdown that they're having because they've been sucked into this propaganda machine, and they're like, they don't know what else to think. And you're like, well, based on these things, here's how you resolve that. If you're dealing with those people, here's how you resolve that. Like you can't argue with an idiot because they'll drag you down and beat you with the experience. And
Mm-hmm.
so
that's one of my favorite quotes.
Yeah. So you can't argue with them. So you talk to the people and say, hey, first of all, if you're having an emotional problem, that's your problem. That's not our problem for us to fix you or help you guide through. First of all, you need to accept that that's your problem, and then figure out a way to fix it, or ask somebody a way to help you figure out to fix it. So there's always a path to a solution. It's just nobody's trying to take it. Everyone.
One thing I'll say, Corey, is I've been doing this show for coming up on 3 years, which is crazy to think. But I've invited tons of people on the left, people who have opposing viewpoints from my own, so largely people on the left. Not one of them has accepted. And so, one issue is because my whole thing, the whole reason I quote unquote went viral originally was I got canceled basically for talking about why the masks don't work at mitigating the spread of an airborne virus, talking from my own perspective as someone who's a published scientist. And so in response to that, I held up a sign that said, we can disagree and still be friends. And that's truly been my philosophy. I want to talk to people who disagree with me, and I want to find solutions, and I want to find common ground. But something that I've found, and I'm not trying to be a nihilist or a pessimist or anything, but one key issue that we face is, you just mentioned talking about someone about essentially personal accountability, right? How can I fix this?
Right.
One issue is that the ideologies are essentially complete opposites from one another in that regard, right? And I mean, that's the bedrock of sort of what we stand for is personal accountability, the strength of the individual ruggedness, and the strength of the family foundation is what's made this nation what it is. But they don't share that same paradigm of thought. So they truly don't believe in personal responsibility or accountability at the individual level. And so it's very hard to have a conversation with someone who doesn't even share that belief with you. You're not starting from the same first principles. So that's one challenge that I've encountered. And yeah, I have innumerable qualms with the right and the people who are these quote unquote influencers, which I've expressed. But with the left, with trying to have conversations with people who would probably look at you and I and immediately call us, domestic terrorists, white supremacists, bigot, racist, whatever. Which, by the way, I'm married to a person of color, so they can kiss my ass. Is
I'm
you
half
know,
black.
so there you go, right?
Yeah,
Um,
whatever.
I don't see color, so I didn't know that. But
That would make you a racist, man. I just
exactly,
let you know.
that's crazy too. Like you say something like, we should see past color, which is, what MLK said, thought it was a good idea at the time. Nowadays, you're like, no, everything has to be about that. But anyway, the the place where we butt heads when you do try to have discourse with people who have this victim mentality is that they truly don't believe in personal accountability, right? They always defer accountability to the system or to uh, they defer to authority, and that authority is often institutions, right? It's not yourself, it's not God. And so that's the challenge that I have in even resolving issues and finding common ground with people who have that directly opposite view that we have. And so I don't know if you've interacted with many people like that, or if you have any advice to someone who's trying to, but that's where I encounter issues with it.
That's where everyone encounters issues with it, and it's because that the people on the left have been indoctrinated to believe in the common good, right?
Right. Yeah. Yep.
I'm going to destroy this, but I'm going to try to paraphrase it. Friedrich Nietzsche said that if it's that common, how could it be good?
I've
You know,
never heard that. That's
it's in.
I've never heard that.
I believe. I think I might have saved it. It's in his book, Beyond Good and Evil. Of course, I don't have it, but he did say
Are
that.
you a big fan of Nietzsche, or at least you've consumed a lot of his work?
I'm trying to.
Yeah.
I'm not a philosopher. I'm in an organization with Jack Donovan, the Order of Fire,
Yeah. Yeah. I
and
like his
it,
books.
yeah. And if anybody has an issue, like I'm going to finish here, and then I'll go back to that. But yeah, I'm not a philosopher, but in this group that we're trying to do, we're trying to build a culture around, basically, not manosphere shit, like cigars and cognac and a man should be a man. It's like, but why should a man be a man, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
the foundational stuff. And to his books, the problem with the left again is that they've been told that they need to care about everyone, right? Like it makes them morally superior, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, going back to Nietzsche, it's like there's morals and there's virtues, and virtues are higher. So, and then that's where we get into the whole virtue signaling thing. But in the
Mm.
end, in the way of men, it's about the tribe. It's
Yep.
about and we've lost that, and people have been using that as like a negative thing, like tribalism. If we were more fucking tribal, none of this shit would be going on. If we were more tribal at the smaller local level.
Well, that's what I was about to say. It's the context in which we're tribal, right? I think the
Right.
tribalism that's rampant today is not the right kind of tribalism,
No,
if you
not at
will.
all.
Yeah.
No, not at all. It's completely taken out of context. And like I try to, if you control your home, right? Not
Hmm.
in the toxic masculinity controlling home, because that doesn't exist. If you control your home, right, like, and you control yourself, right, you have your non-negotiables, right, you have your personal excellence goals, right, you have your discipline, you're consistent, you're accountable, right, you spread that, your kids start to do that, your wife starts to do that, then their friends see you doing that and being successful. And then they start to do that. They ask you, hey, what are you doing that's different? It's like, well, I time block, I time management. I teach
Mm-hmm.
my kids time blocking, teach them time management. We have our certain things that we're supposed to do. We have a list of 5 things that need to get done every single day. We get those things done, and then we have free time. And those free time are things that excel our personal excellence. And then they start doing it, right? And then you get involved in your local government, and then you try to build that structure in there, and that local government grows and grows and grows till it gets to a point where, like, you have all these pockets of these little small little tribes that have a mutual respect for each other because they're all doing similar things, right? They're trying to progress their tribe, right? And then you get, obviously you get to the thing about, like, tribal warfare and all that stuff. But I think we've come to a point in life in humanistics that we understand that that's a bad thing. Right. We're all trying to gain as much as possible with our next door neighbor, and we have respect to them.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a thing. That's the thing now. And
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
use it,
Yeah.
and those people, those tribalists who are doing it the wrong way, and the fucking lefts are the worst kind of tribalists, right? Like, they just don't understand, first of all, what fascism is or what tribalism is, because if they understood both of them, they'd be doing the opposite of what it is they're doing.
Yeah, I always find that to be entertaining when the people who advocated for lockdowns, advocated for mandates, whether it's the vaccine or masks, advocated for all of these institutional controls, the number one slur that they hurl at their opposition is that they're fascist. It's like, bro, you clearly don't know what fascism
No,
is.
there's I think it's either a PragerU clip or a Charlie Kirk clip where they're protesting Charlie Kirk, calling him a fascist, and they interviewed like 4 people, and they're like, "What is a fascist?" And they're like, "I don't know. I just know he's one."
I love clips like that. I mean, that is kind of like dopamine spiking
Oh,
brain
for
candy, but
sure.
I enjoy that stuff. Another one is they were at this, no, it wasn't. It was just a man on the street thing, and this girl kept calling the guy doing the interview misogynistic, and he was like, "All right, real quick though, just so we're operating from the same definitions. What does misogynistic mean?" She could not tell him. She couldn't tell him, bro. It like this is what you encounter time after time after time. These words just get thrown around and people don't understand the meaning. And I mean, fascism is another one. It's just calling people a Nazi is another one. It just on and on and on and on. So it's like, and obviously racist is another one. I get called that stuff so much, bro, that like it doesn't mean anything to me. And to your point, you ask those people who are saying it what it means, they can't tell you either.
No. So a couple of years ago, I have a friend that I grew up with. She wasn't my direct friend. We had neighbors, and it was her cousin. She got older, and I made a post, and it was something about race. No, I commented on her something she put, and she's very, very, very BLM, all that stuff.
Mhm.
And I made a comment, and I was like, that doesn't make sense, or something like that. And then we're going back and forth, and she's talking about me being, black, because I'm like 70-30. I did the ancestry, so 70% white, 30% black. And
So you get to go to the cookout 3 times out of 10.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So she made that my identity because someone else said something about me being white, and she goes, no, he's mixed, and he's saying all this stuff. And I was like, you're starting to sound a lot like a racist.
Mhm.
And she said to me, she said, black people can't be racist.
I've heard that a million times, dude. A
And I was
million
like,
times.
I was like, actually, you can. And then she said, no, we could be prejudiced, but we can't be racist. So I sent her the definition of racism, and it's to be prejudiced against a race. I mean, I'm obviously
Mhm.
summarizing, but that's it. The word prejudice is in the definition of racism. And I was like, yes, you can. And then she blocked me.
Well, another great example. I don't want to just shit on these people the whole episode, but it is fun.
Right.
Another great
A little bit.
example is Ibram X Kendi, right? Famously, he's giving this talk. I forget where it was, and someone asks genuinely because they really wanted to know. They're like, okay, you're using this term um, racism, or maybe he said institutional or systemic racism a lot. Can you just define it from your perspective? And I mean, this was a viral clip. It went all around. It was like the main discrediting event in Ibram X Kendi's fall from grace. But he used the word racism to define racism like several times in the definition. So it was basically like racism is a system of racist people doing racist things to enforce racist ideals or something. And everybody's looking around in the audience like, bro, did he just use the word to define the word? Like, that's how insane this stuff is. And this is a guy who's made millions of dollars off of pushing his anti-racism rhetoric, which is essentially just saying you need present discrimination to make up for past discrimination, right? Like that's the big thing he pushes, and
Which is still racism.
it's still racism. I mean, look, you can say that that's what you think we need, and that's cool. Like, just say you think we need racism in the other direction, right? Like, that's fine. I don't agree with that, but at least be genuine and authentic in your definitions and be upfront with me. Just like abortion, like think what you want about it. But, I have more respect for the people, and I say that with a grain of salt, but more respect for the people who say, yeah, I think late term abortion is murder, but people should still be able to do it. I'm like, all right, cool. You're acknowledging that you think it's murder, right? So,
yeah,
but you still think that murder should be allowed. I have more respect for that than the person saying that, my wife is 9 months pregnant right now. There's some states where she could theoretically get an abortion based on legislation. And there are people who would argue that that's not yet a human, right? Like, I have far less respect for those people because they're not being honest with their rhetoric.
Right. And with the professor, I mean, that's where you get into virtue signaling, right? Like,
yeah,
you think you're have this moral high ground by saying these things, but you could say them, and as many times as you say them, it doesn't make them make sense.
Right. No matter how many times you say it, doesn't make it true.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah. And that's what, and they want it to be true so bad so they can be like, I gotcha. But, and then they make it their identity.
Right.
And the identity politics is probably it's the worst form that we have, right? Like, it should
100%.
just be about meritocracy. It's the best person should do the best job on every level and everything.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
The first this, the first that, like, fucking A, bro. Like,
yeah.
I don't get it.
I made a post. You might have seen it. I think I posted it on Twitter or X or whatever it is now. And then I think I put it on my Instagram too. But I was just like, systemic racism is real. It does exist, but it's called DEI, right?
100%.
Race-based hiring. That is 100% a system that enforces racism. And of course, I always like poking the bear, and I get some fun responses to that. But man, it's just so intellectually inconsistent, all of this stuff. Well, sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but I'm just checking the phone because the wife is like ready to pop any
oh, no worries. You're
now.
good, brother. Yeah, it's the mental gymnastics. That's like the whole fucking pronoun thing. I saw a video yesterday of a chick, because Demi Moore doesn't identify as whatever she does anymore because it was too exhausting.
Demi Moore or Demi Lovato?
I'm sorry, Demi Lovato. Yes, sorry.
Yeah. Don't drag Demi Moore through the mud, damn it.
I'm sorry. She's so
fond memories of Ghost.
For sure. Or G.I. Jane.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
But, she doesn't identify as whatever anymore because it's too exhausting. And then a chick came on there. I mean, nowhere near as good looking as Demi Lovato before all this stuff. And she was talking, it was pretty bad, about how exhausting it was for her. And that's why she doesn't do it anymore either. And I was like, you're literally just trying to capitalize off of someone famous and saying the exact same thing she said. But also, it was very eye-opening for her to be condemning the movement that she was promoting
Mm-hmm.
all in the same tone, because even the people within the movement are now bickering with each other.
Oh yeah, yeah. The common expression is the left eats its own, and it's just
Oh,
like when you play the identity politics game, inevitably what happens is the group continues to whittle itself down because of the intersectionality part of it, right? Obviously, the white queer person is more privileged than the black queer person, but the black queer amputee is even less privileged than the regular black queer person. And then the black, and you just go on and on and on and on until, I mean, theoretically, according to this ideology, there is one person in this world who is the least privileged, therefore the person who should be held on high as the ultimate, right? And so it's just a deconstructionist way of thinking, and it always ends up where you see these people virtue signaling one month, and then the next month they're kicked out of the group because the Overton's window keeps shifting, and now all of a sudden they're not far left enough and they're being demonized, and it's just this vicious cycle, man. And it's honestly, if it weren't absolutely destroying our society, it would be just humorous to watch,
it would, if it was happening somewhere else.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
That's why everyone's laughing at us right now. Everyone in the world is laughing at us because they're like, look at these people.
Hmm.
They are fighting over silly stuff. I saw a post and I thought this was great. And it was the United States isn't separated by gender, race, color, ideology. It is separated by wisdom,
Hmm.
people with wisdom, and fools. And the fools separate themselves into those categories. And I
Right.
thought that was very, very enlightening. And I think for the last 25 years, right, this has been pushed upon us, right? It started with everyone gets a trophy and all this political correctness. And you can't say this hurts these people. And it really, it stems from when we were kids, we could call somebody gay or retarded.
Yep. Or
And
you could
now,
call him a gay retard if you really
oh,
wanted
yeah,
to send the message
yeah.
home.
And now we can't. And now we can't because we're into this world where we have to self-censor and do all these things. And we are not allowed to express ourselves in the tone because, again, it comes back to feelings.
Yeah.
Full circle. It's about people's feelings and how they feel and things like that. And they feel like that because we've been stroking their feelings since they were 2 years old. When they throw a fit, you give them something.
Yep. The
And
squeaky wheel gets the grease, as my grandmother
right.
used to say. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, when I cried, when I was a baby, I didn't get a toy. I got
Right.
the threat. I got the threat of a backhand. Especially if
Yeah.
I was crying over something that like spilled milk. Like if I was crying because I didn't get to do something, it was like, boy,
Yeah. Yeah. Dude,
you know,
from all of my life up until I think seventh grade, because that's when I left home. I grew up, I was the only white kid in my neighborhood, all black and Hispanic kids, and me, right? Dude, the shit we said to each other, just like vicious, boys. First off, it's boys. Second off, I'm the only white kid. All my friends are more athletic than me, fucking faster than me, all dude, I got so much shit and I gave so much shit back. And we're all like the best friends today, right? It's like people today are so offended by everything and so just it's like I don't even know what I'm trying to say right now, but I just look back at when I was a kid and how like vicious we were to each other, right? But we loved each other, right? It's like, hey, that's my bro. I'm the only one who can treat him that way. Like if there was some other, kid messing with our friend group, right? It's just like your sibling, you can beat the shit out of them, but nobody else better fuck with them, right?
yeah,
And dude, I mean, I was, called a cracker and yeah, you're slow because you're white and all this stuff. And like I would dish it right back to them. And like it was normal. It was
yeah,
normal, just dudes or, boys being boys. But today, that would be labeled as toxic and racist and awful, and this must be stopped. And I mean, it's just, I don't know, man. It's sad.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, if we want to talk about toxic masculinity, I got something for that. I don't believe in that at all.
Well, me
I
neither.
think first of all, it was created by some angry fucking feminist. And actually it was created in the prison system to define like super aggressive inmates that were like attacking each other or some shit like that. It was like a term used in a study. And
Mm,
then some fucking feminist psychologist got a hold of that and started labeling men outside of prison who in prison they're actually trying to kill each other. And then they started telling, if you're, strong, you're independent, you don't want to listen to people, you want your woman to be a certain aesthetic, or, you want her to not go out and party and get fucked up with all her friends, you're toxic masculinity. And I don't believe in that. There is masculinity and there's a lack of masculinity, right?
hmm
And, I hate to go Larry Elder on you, but the problem with it's not even just the black community, it's kids today. They don't have that role model,
Right.
the one out there searching and seeking and providing and protecting and presiding. They don't have that anymore because they've killed them off. How old are you?
36.
Oh, so about the same age. I'm 38. So like we had that. Our dads were that. Not only were our dads that, we had action figures that were that.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Well, and that's an interesting point too, not to cut you off, but like I didn't have a dad. My dad left, very early. Both of my parents were teenagers, drug addicts, abusive, all that shit. And but and so naturally a boy with no father seeks that somewhere. That's
right?
inevitably going to happen, right? And you just mentioned action figures, action movies. Like I found male role models that embodied those characteristics elsewhere because they actually existed at that time. So even a fatherless child like myself, right? I could find it. But today, and across the board, all communities, fatherless homes have skyrocketed, but black America, especially, over 70% are single mother homes. And it's like, Barack Obama, to bring up Larry Elder again, he always says this. Barack Obama said it himself, right? The number one contributing factor to whether you end up incarcerated or, not well off as an adult or maladjusted or whatever is growing up in a fatherless home. And
Yeah,
and the government incentivizes that through the welfare state. I saw it with my parents, right? Like
yeah,
where I lived, all of the women, so my mom was abusive, drug addict, terrible person. Um, and all her friends were the same. They were all single moms because all the dads were out of the picture. And they would have these conversations. Like I have literally heard, I was like 5 or 6. And I remember hearing this. And even at that age, it struck me as, wow, that's crazy. I heard one of my mom's friends saying she was pregnant and she was excited because it was just some random hookup, some random dude's kid, but she was going to get more money from the government since she was having another kid.
yeah,
Right? Like it incentivizes women to marry the federal government instead of have a man in the home to
yeah.
provide. And I bring that stuff up, man, and
It falls on deaf
friends,
ears.
well, or they'll say something like, that that's not how it is everywhere, and there's homes that really need welfare who are just fell on hard times or whatever. And I'm like, okay, great, let's give them welfare with the caveat that they have to find work in a certain amount of time, whatever. Let's drug test them. I'm fine with all that. And then of course they say, well, no, I don't want to do that. I'm like, okay, so you want to have welfare for anyone who wants it, and you want to incentivize single mother homes. And then of course they really have no argument from there. But it's just been this snowball, this synergy of factors that's contributed: fatherlessness, welfare, not having good role models to look to, social media, right? Where like, I was just doing an episode with a friend of mine who started a seminar called "Fathering in a World Gone Mad," and we talked about that. Social media hey, I got picked on at school, but I could leave school, right? These kids can't
Yeah.
even leave that shit now. They come home and they're still getting picked on social media. It's just this positive feedback loop of negative shit, right? And
Yeah.
so um I'm just ranting now, but yeah, man, I feel the
No,
same.
I mean, no, it is, uh, they did another study. I can't remember. It was a fucking clip. I wish I could find it. I've seen it twice. Maybe I'll see it again. And it's a woman up there and she's talking about fatherless homes. And uh, the study suggested that a home with just the father, the child was less likely, almost as less likely to go end up dead in prison on drugs or whatever if they had a two-parent home.
Right,
I mean,
right.
that's how important the father is, in not just the boy's life, but in the girl's life too, because these girls that grow up without a father, they don't know how a man's supposed to treat a woman,
Exactly.
or if obviously there's the terrible father who whatever, and they go and they marry their father and things like that too. But we're talking about fatherless homes. I mean, it's just it's a very important statistic to look at when you're talking about the future of our culture. And that's some of the things that we're trying to build in the Order of Fire with Jack Donovan is to be those men, right? Be the first men of this culture that really appreciates what we have to bring to the table. Because I mean, I don't want to gloat or anything, but fucking men built the world.
Mm-hmm.
Men built the world. I mean, slaves, kings, whatever, jesters, we all built the world. And the women filled the world. Like, that's your role. Your role is to fill the world, and we build the world and we protect the world. Yes, you can work alongside with us, but like, dude, you're not a man. And I had this argument a couple weeks ago about a woman. She was something about her son. I can't remember. And I told her, go read this book, The Way of Men. And because you yourself cannot teach your son how to be a man. And some Karen got on there and she like fucking blasted me, all these things. And then she said something about her daughter. And I said, look, dude, I have two daughters. I cannot teach them how to be a woman. I can't.
Exactly. Yep.
I can't. I could teach my son how to be a man. That is why my wife is here, to teach my daughters how to be a woman. And she said I backpedaled off that. And I don't know how I backpedaled, but it ended up just getting, the conversation went cold, because after I told her men teach boys how to be men, women teach girls how to be women. That is it. She said a few more things after that that didn't make any sense. So I left it at that. And it's just, we've lost that, right? We've lost that. Somehow we're the same, and it doesn't matter, that gender ideology, another fucking identity thing. It's just, we've lost the self, right? We've lost the individual. We've lost the tribe.
Yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. And actually, I've mentioned my wife's pregnant a couple times. We have one girl, we have another girl on the way, and we've had this conversation many times. She's like, if the next one's a boy, that's all you. She's like, I don't know
Yeah.
how to, I don't know how to deal with that untamed, wild energy that a boy has. I don't know the first thing about teaching a boy how to navigate the world. And just that simple statement that's very logical from a very logical woman, it would be exactly what you dealt with, right? It would be torn apart as, a woman can do anything a man can do, and a man can do anything a woman can do. And it's like, you're ignoring reality. You're just ignoring reality. It's right.
Wow.
Like, there's certain roles that I fill in my daughter's life. A big one is what you already said. I show her through my actions what a good man does to his woman, right? I show her what a good man is because I want her to seek out a good man. And I am the example of a man to her. And I know that
Yeah.
that's my role in her life. Also,
Yeah.
discipline, etc.
Um,
But
but you're not just a good man. You're a man that's good at being a man.
exactly.
You
Yes.
know,
That's a better way of putting it. Yeah.
because there's some twist up there, right? Like, a good man is somebody who's submissive to, and does what he's told and
No,
things like that.
that's not what I mean by a good
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
to be clear.
Yeah. No, I know. I know. I'm just saying. I was like, there's a better way to. They're not a better way, because not that you said it wrong, but there's a way to say it that, right? A
Yeah.
man, there's a good man, and there's a man being good at being a man. And we should strive to be both, right? We should be a good man, and we should also be good at being a man.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's what you are, and that's what you're showing your daughter. So she's not going to go and pick one or the other, or she may, but she's going to try to find that guy who is good at being a man. It does the man stuff, but also is a very good man.
Yeah.
And I think we've 100% lost that. That just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Absolutely, man. And it is. I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine who I serve with at the church on the security team, and he has two boys. And we were talking a lot about, he has boys who are military age, college age. And, he's like, he's raised incredible boys. They're extremely polite, hardworking, just great, great kids. And I'm like, as the father of daughters, thank you for raising men, like real men who know what a man is and what they should do. Because one thing that I think about every day is when my daughter gets old enough, all these soft, pussy ass, quote unquote men who are out there, that's going to be what she can choose from,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that worries me, man. It really does. But
um,
you know, I was in this episode I did with my buddy Kelly, who has the fathering program earlier today. There really has been this sort of resurgence and renaissance of men embracing traditional masculinity, and my hope is that that continues to rise, right? And so I'm
yeah,
thankful for guys like you, for guys like him, but it's it's scary, man. You got
yeah,
girls, so you know what I'm
yeah,
saying.
yeah. So, yeah. So I met my youngest daughter. She's 15. She was like dating this boy who
Your
ended up
youngest
being,
is 15?
yeah. She's gonna be 16 in a couple of weeks. No, my youngest is 5. My youngest girl is 15.
Got it, got it, got it.
And she was like talking to this boy, and I met him. And the first 2 questions I asked him, I said, "Do you get jealous, and can you fight?"
Mm.
And he hesitated on both. And I was like, "Yeah, it's probably not gonna last." I didn't tell my daughter or my wife that, but it ended up not lasting. He ended up being a little shitty kid, you know. But my oldest daughter, she's 18. She'll be 19 in a couple weeks. I asked her boyfriend the same thing. I was like, "Do you get jealous, and can you fight?" And he's like, "I don't get jealous, and yes, I can fight." I was like, "Cool." I said, "Your job is to protect my daughter, and if you don't protect my daughter, you should find someone to protect you."
Mm.
And he
Yeah.
understood that, and he's like, you know, "Yes, sir," and shook my hand. Fucking excellent handshake, by the way. And and it's different. It's two very. I mean, these boys were 15. Or the one boy was 16, and my oldest daughter's boyfriend was 18. So these boys are only 2 years apart, and completely different fucking boys.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different boys, and it's like mind-boggling that like, and both of them have both parents, right? But one is a spoiled little fucking brat, the younger one, and he just, that's it. And it just, he's lucky for him it didn't work out, because if he had done anything, I actually, he was picking on my daughter, and so he was actually, he was 17 picking on my daughter, and he turns 18 sometime, and we were at this barrel race, and I went up and I told him, I said, "Hey boy, when do you turn 18?" And he goes, "In a couple months." I said, "If you don't stop picking on my fucking daughter, I will give you an ass whooping as a birthday present, because you'll be an adult and it'll be a misdemeanor. So leave her the fuck alone, or deal with that." And he was like, he left and cried. he
Of
left and
course he
fucking
did.
cried. But it's like, dude, come on now. Like, dude, you're a fucking boy. What are you doing? You're
Yeah.
playing these stupid games. Like,
Well, again, that whole paradigm of thinking that we're the same, thinking that
Yeah.
men and women aren't intrinsically different. What does that result in? It results in exactly what you saw. Boys treating girls the way they would treat boys, right? Like
Right.
picking on your daughter. That shit is not gonna fly, you know? I mean,
Not even a little bit.
not a little bit, man. Not a little bit. And it's funny because, you know, my daughter's 6, right? I'm a ways off from, hopefully, you know, God willing, worrying
Yeah.
about boys in
I'll
a
pray
major
for you.
way.
I'll
Thank you,
pray for
brother.
you.
Thank you, because she's a beautiful girl, and I can already, like, you know, but even when she's at the playground and she's got her little friends from school, and, you know, at that age, it's like the boys and girls are a little more equal because puberty hasn't happened yet.
Right.
Boys haven't had that spike of testosterone that makes them, you know, far surpass
Yeah.
girls in their
They're
physical
still
abilities.
fucking innocent.
Yeah,
Super
yeah, yeah.
innocent still.
Super innocent, but like my daughter's still beating them in races, and she can do more pull-ups than a lot of them and stuff. And but even still, like when I watch just the way the little boys treat each other versus the way the little girls treat each other, it's very different, man. Very different. And you've got to relay that to your kids that, like,
Yeah.
if you have a daughter, don't let boys treat you the way they treat other boys, right? And vice versa. Like, don't treat a boy like you're another boy, right? Because that
Yeah.
happens as well. And you see that a lot in, like, lefty feminist white women, especially. I have an aunt who's that way.
They're the
And
worst.
she treated her husband like shit, man. Just like absolutely treated him like shit. No respect for him. And look, he's to blame for a lot of it because he took it, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
he tolerated it. But that is and that is a result of this, of what we've been talking about, man. It's this whole, you know, because look, if he just decided one day, okay, you want to treat me like that, fine, I'll treat you like another man too, and he could just beat the fuck out of her, right? Like, we are not equal.
Yeah.
So
You know,
it's delusion.
people should look at nature. People should like go out and observe nature, right? That is life. That is life.
Mhm.
Not what we have here. Like, and to think that we are above that. Like,
Right.
we're animals too. They are fucking animals, right? Monkeys and gorillas and chimpanzees, they're all fucking animals. We're animals.
Mhm.
They have a hierarchy, right? And the boys play different with the girls, right?
Mhm.
You watch Cubs play, right? Every at Cubs at the boys and girls, right? Male, female, they will play until they get older, and then they're trying to do other things to each other, but which we should also take a lesson from because you know. But anyway, uh, but they're very separated in their roles, right?
Yeah.
They're very
Yeah.
separated in their roles. Like the male animal does this, the female animal does this. The female animal has the kids, she cares for the kids, you know, she raises the kids and kicks them out of the nest. The male, you know, goes out, hunts, brings back food. Sometimes the female does that, but it's just there's two different things. There's two different worlds. There's a male world and there's a female world. There is a little bit of overlap, but it's not one fucking circle, you know.
Right.
And it's just it's leaving so much on the table for everyone, you know.
Yeah.
It's just condensing the world into this fucking mono crop thing, and it's like that's not what it is, you know. Like, we all think different, we all
Yeah.
have different perspectives, we
Yeah.
bring different things to the table, and that's important.
Right. And inevitably what happens with that, man, is just intrinsically it's going to happen is that the woman will not respect the man in the way that,
They
like,
already
so
don't.
right, exactly. But, you know, so for example, I talk about this in my marriage. I've been with my wife for 17 years. We've been together a long time.
Congratulations, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, thank you, man. Ever since I was 18, first girlfriend, last girlfriend, wife, mother of my children, got it, one and done. But like, women civilize men, right? That's just a fact. You know, they're a
Yes.
civilizing force in our lives. You know, we are just raw, unadulterated, primal energy otherwise. And we are well aware of our roles in this house, right? I allow her, by way of me completely filling the masculine role in this house, completely operating in that world and not operating in the feminine world at all. It allows her to be completely feminine, right? She doesn't have to worry about stuff she doesn't want to concern herself with because it's not her nature. And so, dude, I hear all the time from women who are married or dating or whatever, complaining about the lack of real men out there. And it's always this complaint that I feel like I have to, quote, step into masculine energy because he's not filling that void in the relationship, right? It has to be this balance of feminine and masculine. And if you're a man who doesn't fully fill that masculine role, the woman will have to take up your slack and she won't respect you. And it's
No.
just, it's inevitable. That's human nature.
Yeah. And it's yeah. And what's weird is like they can do that to a certain point, but we can't do that in theirs. I mean,
Yeah, true.
there's feminine things that men we just can't do, right? We are not emotion based. Even men who are emotional are really working to do that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, dude, we're very logical. We want to see the objective. That is why for up until what I don't know when the 40s or 50s when only men could be in the military because we're objectively driven.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been working so hard to get men to function off of our emotions, even so far as, therapy. Therapy is fucking trash. Like I don't need to feel my feelings. I need to know that they're there. I know when I'm angry. I know when I'm sad. I know when I'm have joy. I know when I want to cry. I know that, but I don't live in them.
Right.
Not to say that women live in them. They just wear them differently, right? They nurture. That is
Yeah.
who they are, right?
Well,
If
I mean, women are, but like men are thing or object oriented, right? That's
100%.
it's just how we are, man. It's how we're wired. That's why there's way more male engineers, right? And I think Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot. And women are relationship oriented, people oriented. That's why they're the majority of nurses and teachers
Yeah.
and what you often find with a lot of this sort of modern era BS is that they're trying to force women to be more object oriented and they're trying to force men to be more relationship or people oriented.
Right.
And that's not to say, like you said, there's not overlap. There's dudes who are nurses and that, they love it and they're passionate about it. And there's women who are more of an engineering type, but for the most part, the averages, the vast majority of us, that's just how we are. And instead of fighting that, instead of pushing against that, if you embrace that, especially in your relationship, like
Yeah.
my wife knows that I'm very different than her and that there are certain things that drive me that don't drive her that she couldn't care less about. And there's shit the opposite, right?
Right.
You just got to realize that stuff and acknowledge it, man,
Yeah.
and
And
stop fighting it.
I always say when you fight nature, you lose.
Every time you will.
Like I follow a bunch of people who post a bunch of stuff about the trans movement and stuff, and all the
Yeah.
backlash and all that stuff. And I just type a simple answer: when you fight nature, you lose. Period. That's it. Because
Mhm.
most of the time they're posting some like horrid thing that happened or something. I'm like, when you fight nature, you lose. And we've gone away from that. Like for some reason, we think that we're bigger than nature.
Right.
Like we think that this thing that's elevated above naturistic law. Like we're not. We're still fucking animals. Like I said, we still have these primal things, like you said. Like even the women, we're still very primal, right? We have monkey brains, and if you let us live a very simple life, we could do it. We eat, sleep, and poop. That's it.
And breed.
And breed, right? Eat, sleep, poop, and breed. And if you just let us, if we didn't have this thing and houses and money and the function of society and all that stuff, we would just be out there roaming with the other fucking animals. But we put this thing in our mind that because we get dressed in the morning, we brush our teeth, we go to work, somehow we're above nature. And like we're not, because when we fight it, if I went and took a bunch of fucking estrogen right now, in 10, 15, 20 years, my body would start to deteriorate.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's why all these detransitioners are coming out saying, like, dude, I was 14 fucking years old. I didn't have a chance to go through puberty and get my mind developed. And now I'm on all these hormones that are killing me. You wanted to be a man that bad that you're going to risk taking 30, 40 years off your life to fight nature.
Mm-hmm.
That's fucking mind blowing that anybody would want to do that.
Even more interesting is some of these accounts you hear of the opposite. So biological females who want to take testosterone and transition to being a man or whatever. It's interesting because up until that point in their life, they've been a part of a culture and they themselves have demonized men, trash the patriarchy, men are awful, blah, blah, blah. But it's interesting when they start taking tests and you hear some of their accounts of that experience. And it's usually something to the effect of, oh my God, all I can think about is like sex and, like physical things and competition and all that. It's like, yeah, welcome to our brains. Welcome to being a man. You call us all these bad things, but that is how we're wired. Right. And I'm not making excuses for, whatever dudes who are sex addicts or cheat on their spouse or whatever it is. But like, you have to understand that we're different, and men and women view and experience the most simple primal things differently, like sex and competition and all of that. And they're like, oh, I see now. I see what you guys are feeling in your brains.
We're watching the same movie and it's like, I just watched something completely different. If you had men and women summarized in a movie that was exact same, they sat down an hour and a half of a movie. A man would be like, he would put all the action parts or lack thereof. The woman would be like, oh my God, the mom's story, the daughter's story, the son's, it was so beautiful. And
this is how it made me feel.
Yeah. I one time I was talking to this guy in a bar and he was telling me about differences between men and women. And he's like, he used this analogy of landing the plane. He said, when women tell a story, you are doing this. Like, you're like, oh, no, can't land it yet. No, yep. And men just like, we nosedive. We land the fucking plane. That's how our brains work. We just want to land the fucking plane. Women want you to be part of their story. So they give you background, they give you context, they give you, a side story that you weren't even fucking paying attention to. And
it's like how was your day, right? Like at the end of the day, like, how was your day? All right, here's me. It was great. Yeah. How was yours? Here's hers. Well, at the office today, blah, 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 blah. And this happened and that happened. And then this, and I'm really, I don't know if it's like I'm sick or I ate something, but, and then this and that and this and that. I'm just like, whew. But you learn that you expect that, right? Like that's the difference between us. Now, where it breaks down is if she says, how was your day? And I say, good. And she's like, what's wrong? Why are you being so short with me? Yeah. Why aren't you answering in the way I would answer as a woman? Because I'm a fucking man. My day was good. If you have a specific question about my day, ask it and I'll tell you the answer.
I think that's that's one of the biggest problems between men and women is, I mean, not that we know, but we ask women a question and we kind of expect the long answer, right? Mm-hmm. We're like, all right. And, when women ask men the question, they're expecting their answer.
Yes.
Yeah. And you're like, well, I went and played golf and I sucked. Well, why did you suck? What were you doing? What happened there?
Right.
And, what my wife knows, she understands. So she knows she has to pull the information out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll just tell her in genuine, like, it just sucked. I don't know what I'm doing. And it just sucked. She's like, well, what are you doing wrong? This and that. And then she helps me understand, that things like that, but that's just what it is.
Yeah. It's like, I'll tell my wife, oh, I ran into such and such today, somebody we hadn't seen in a long time. Yeah. And then she'll be like, oh, well, I saw that, the this and that about their relationship. Are they this or that? And I'm like, baby, I don't know. I didn't ask him all that shit. I saw him. I said,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
that was it.
There's that comedian. He has a joke, and he said, "Yeah, I got a text from to pray for Larry today. He was in a car accident." And the wife's like, "Oh my God, was the family in the car?" He's like, "I don't know. I got a text from a friend that said pray for Larry. He got a car
Yeah.
accident."
Yeah.
Oh my God, are the other people okay? I don't know. I got a text saying
Yeah.
pray for Larry. I don't know. But it's funny.
It's so true, man. It's just like I don't even think to ask all that. I honestly don't. I'm like,
Yeah.
Larry was in a car wreck. Man, I hope he's okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That is
So
it. Well, I mean, and then there's that lady who went undercover as a man. She didn't even wasn't even transitioning. She just went undercover. She wrote a book about it.
oh yeah, the one who committed suicide?
Yeah, and then she fucking killed herself.
Yeah.
Like,
It
that's
ain't
it.
easy, lady.
Yeah. And now they're showing too that high school boys and college boys are actually leaning toward more conservative
Yep.
because they have access to TRT. So these boys, these young boys who are probably getting their testosterone levels to normal, because we've been
Right.
on a
Because they've
decline
declined so
for
much. Yeah.
and they're starting to lean conservative, right? They're starting to lean they're starting to lean into their nature. They're like, that doesn't make sense. So no,
Right. Right.
and less likely to be controlled and things like that. And like they're doing these studies. One, I understand why you do the study, right? Because you want to understand that shit. But like, why are you doing the study? Like, is there a tinfoil hat thing you're trying to do the study for? But needless to say that it's starting to, I feel like the pendulum is starting to come back, and what's going to happen is if it doesn't stop at dead center and it swings back right real hard, there's going to be some people who are not going to be able to handle the shit that's going to be done.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that, man. I think part of it is also just in general, the youth tends to be rebellious, right? And so today, oddly enough, the rebellion is embracing conservative
Yeah.
ideas.
If you're,
The rebellion is monogamy and family.
yeah, it's not going out and hooking up with everybody on Tinder. It's not going out and getting shit face wasted and doing all these things and dyeing your hair purple and
Mhm.
cutting your dick off and things like that. That is the mainstream. Well, that's not the mainstream. That is what they're pushing
Right.
is the mainstream, right?
Right.
And they're
Right.
like,
Right.
that's what they're telling me to do. I'm going to do the opposite. And like
Yeah.
people like me and you, I mean, you're obviously smarter than me with your, your degrees and things like that. But I feel like I'm
Not
a
at all, bro. Not at all. If I could go back, I wouldn't take them.
I'm just a layman. Like I went and got my business degree well after being an adult, just so I can work in an industry that I was working in. But like me as a layman, I understand things because I look at it objectively. I try to, deduce what it is that they're trying to do. And then I'm like, I make a decision for myself. Again, it's back to, personal responsibility.
Mhm.
They're taking away the individual. When you smear the individual and put us in this big group and then try to tell us it's for the good of, the common good, you're like, when you're somewhat awake, you're like, is it common good though? Like, I don't feel like I should be doing this. So I'm gonna remove myself.
Mhm.
And that is coming back. And like I said, I maybe swing a little bit more to the right, but like full to the right is I don't think that would be good at all.
What do you mean by that?
So uh
I'm not saying I disagree with you. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on.
do you know what the Weimar Republic was?
Yeah.
So also I don't want to get into too much stuff, but World War One, Germany was actually, they were winning the front. And what happened was socialism. The factory shut down. They stopped getting support. Who was in World War One? Adolf Hitler was on the front lines of World War One,
Right.
and
Right. And it
the
radicalized him.
the culture started swinging left, right?
Yep.
Progressivism, communists, socialists started, getting more and more. And his response to that was way too fucking much,
Right.
and that's what you get in these extreme situations. We're in an extreme right now. We're in an extreme left. Not that we live in it, but it's being preached like we do live in it, right? And then
But do you think that was him carrying out right-leaning ideals too far? Or because I don't know, when I think about, I guess I'm more right-leaning libertarian than because I mean he took it in the direction of eugenics. I just
yeah,
don't, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't,
yeah,
if you carry out these conservative principles to their maximum, I'm not so sure that has to result in like genocide. You know,
it
I mean,
doesn't. But there are those people who are going to take it to that extreme. I mean, look at Mao. Look at
right,
you,
got you.
you know
I know what you're saying. Yeah,
there's going to be that one person who's just like who's got it, that
right.
Barack Obama, but for the right,
Yeah, yeah.
says all the right things. He's smooth, right? We're like, yeah. And he's like, people who are attacking kids and wanting to lop their genitals off, they should be killed. And all the people who support them should be killed. And you're kind of like, you got swept up in it. And now the next thing you know, you're like, well, shit, that makes sense. And you're like, oh, wait, damn it. And
Right,
now,
right,
you know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah,
So,
it's
like,
yeah, I get what you're saying. It's like the slippery slope
yeah,
thing. But
I'm,
yeah, I mean, um, I think with after what we've seen for the past 3 years, anything is possible. So I won't disagree with you. It's just, um, I don't know. I guess I'm less fearful of the pendulum swinging too far right, just because of the structure of our government and how But
yeah,
then
they won't.
again,
Yeah.
yeah. But then
But it's not
again,
going to be
it's
from the
like
government. It's
right,
not going to be
right,
from the It's going to be us. It's going to be somebody from us, from the working class, who just starts making noise, and we're all like, somebody should elevate that voice, and then
right.
his voice gets elevated and elevated. Because I mean, Hitler wasn't a fucking guy; he was just some frontline soldier
Yeah,
who
yeah,
started saying all the things and getting his dudes all hyped up and shit. And like when you have extreme situations, you're gonna have that voice regardless. We
right.
came out of the Bush era, and here comes this smooth talking guy who gets in the office for 8 fucking years and does nothing, but he was a smooth talking guy. You know what I mean?
Well, and there was also the virtue signal aspect of like, I voted for the first black president,
Yeah.
which is
Yep.
it's also funny because he's half white, half black, and it's like
Yeah.
it's this weird thing where you always default to the non-white
Yeah.
part to
Yeah.
describe people. Like my
Yeah.
wife is half Filipino, half white, and people always call her Filipino, but she's like, no, I mean, you could just as well call me white.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's just a weird thing anyway.
It's
But yeah, I get what you're saying. It's kind of like you could say genital mutilation of minors is wrong. We should stop that. Like you said. And by the way, anybody who ever participated in it, they don't deserve to live. And by the way, abortion is wrong and we should stop late term abortion. And if you're someone who, following that logic, you should only be married if you get pregnant. Next thing you know, you have some psycho saying, if you get pregnant out of wedlock, you deserve to be put to death. Right.
yeah.
Like it carries out that.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. I get what
And
you're
it's like,
saying.
and again, it goes back to we think that we're these special creatures,
Right.
but we could fall into that, and we have.
Yeah, I mean, just in the last few years, man, you had people ratting out their neighbors for like
Yeah.
leaving the house.
Yeah. Look
Dur-
at fucking Australia, man.
Yeah, I mean, they
Holy
basically
shit.
had internment camps, right?
Yeah. Like that's how you can't say it can't happen,
That true. I'll
you
give you
know,
that. Yeah, yeah,
but it's just, it can. It's just who's going to be leading it, right? Like, and
right.
how far are
So
they going to push it? And then when you give somebody that much fucking power, I look at these people who've been in government for 50 fucking years. You gave them power one time and they're like lifelong.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
fucking, what's her name? Feinstein, who just died,
At
who made
90.
at 90, and who made a vote the day before she died.
Yeah.
Like,
And by the way, never made more than 200 grand a year, but somehow passed on a fortune of over $100 million.
Jesus Christ. That's what I'm saying. Like, you get somebody like that, but on the other side who like wants to just start over, right? I mean, yeah, how do you start over?
Right.
You know
No,
what I mean? You
I
you
get
got
what
to
you're saying.
remove you have to
Yeah.
remove the people that are there that are fucking it up.
Right. It's like when AOC, once Biden got into office, she was like, we should make a list of everyone who voted for Trump. And we're all looking around like, what?
Yeah.
The fuck's she
Like,
talking
why?
about?
Or
Yeah.
what's the prime minister in Canada's name?
Trudeau.
He's like, what are we going to do with these people?
Like, what do you mean,
Like,
bro?
what do you like? I'm sorry. What do you mean? First of all, you people just
Right. Yeah, you can't say that, bro. You have been recorded wearing blackface multiple
no
times. So
shit. Come on, bud.
it's always the blackface ones that claim to be virtuous, man. Always.
So weird. And a time that was like, it was fucking funny, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, actually, dude, I'll go on the record and say when I was, gosh, what was it, ninth grade, I guess. I guess technically I did blackface because it was opposite day at school and the movie White Chicks had come out, right? And so me and a buddy, we went as the opposite of white chicks. We went as black chicks. So we did, wig and, stuffed the tits and wore a dress and, painted our skin. Everybody in the school thought it was hilarious, including all the black kids, all the teachers, everybody, because it was like a different era, right? And so the context does matter. White Chicks, the movie, had just come out with two black dudes doing whiteface. So it's like, why can't you do a parody of that for Opposite Day? And I swear, I think there's a picture somewhere of us dressed up like that. And again, we're kids, like literal kids, right? But, so I say that jokingly about Trudeau. I mean, I think he was older when he did that shit, but
he was in his adult years, but
but if you're gonna be the face of virtue signaling today, like check yourself a little bit, homie, because
but what's funny is that people get the receipts and then nothing happens to them. Like, it's so fucking weird.
If you're on the left,
you get these receipts. I mean, fucking $50 million that thing is up to with the Biden thing. And CNN put out a fucking thing. You know what they said? What they said? Well, Biden directly didn't receive money.
Yeah, he had his son funnel it to him.
Okay, hold on.
That's the point of money laundering.
Let me make this. Yeah, so he has a point person who is taking money up to $50 million. It is now. And you're saying that's still not treason because they didn't write his name on. Like, I thought that was the point.
Yeah,
of
he used an alias. He used an alias on his emails, and he had like 20 shell corporations, and he had his son do all the heavy lifting. So he's innocent.
Somebody else actually did the work. He just received the money.
Yeah, exactly. I paid a dude to kill that guy, so I didn't do anything wrong.
Right. Yeah.
It's wild, bro.
It's wild. I mean, it is wild.
Yeah.
We don't live in a wild world, man. And it's it's gonna be fun especially this next year. It's gonna be real fun.
Yeah. Well, look, I am optimistic, man. I think there are a lot of things that we can sit here, and we have for the past hour and 20 minutes, talked a lot of shit, made light of a lot of things and highlighted some real problems, but there's a lot to be optimistic about, man. I mean, just the fact that we're having this conversation, right? Media has been totally decentralized in this country, podcasting, YouTube, Rumble, all the different outlets where people can have conversations, they can put out information. Joe Rogan gets like 12 million downloads first week of a new episode, and CNN can like barely scrape together 100,000 viewers. It's like times are changing, right?
Yeah.
And the more of these 80, 90, 70-year-old boomers who are grasping power as much as they can, the more they keep dying. And the more people like us who are about open discourse keep expressing our views and having these conversations, man, I truly think that things are looking up. So I don't want to end it on a negative note.
No, and I agree. And that's why we're doing this thing. And I mean, to follow up with that, it's like, that's what we should be doing, right? That this is what we're doing here. Like, we're talking shit, but we're also, I mean, there's a message.
Yes.
And the message is the individual, right? We have to take personal responsibility of our actions. We have to take personal responsibility of our family's actions. We can't, subsidize our emotions and our feelings to someone else. And that's what we've been doing. And that's honestly, if we just became accountable for our own personal actions, we stopped expecting people to treat us a certain way because we have certain feelings. If we get back to it, sticks and stones, man,
Mm.
it's sticks and stones.
Yeah, it's funny, man, because words are violence, but then your silence is violence. It's like anything but real violence is violence today.
Right. And violence is the standard.
Yeah.
But it's just weird. But yes, what we're doing here, we bring people on, we talk by ourselves, we spread messages, and we spread these things of how to work through a situation, right? Like we just, I mean, we talked for an hour and a half almost, and the everything that we talked about could be simply reduced down to personal accountability,
Mhm.
personal responsibility, personal excellence. You take care of your own.
That's right.
In the book The Way of Men, I think at the time he wrote it, there was 6 billion people in the world. And Jack Donovan says it would take you thousands of lifetimes to write down everyone's name if you wrote down one name per 3 seconds or something like that. You're never going to fucking know everyone's name. But you know whose name you're going to know? You're going to know your next door neighbor. You're going to
Mhm.
know the person down the street. You're going to know if you live in a small town like me, I have 2,000 people who live in my town. I know the mayor. He lives around the corner from me. Like these are things that I could directly influence. I can't influence anything outside of my state,
That's
anything
right.
outside of my city, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and I think that's honestly, man, you bring that up, and it's a good point because again, these last 3 years, I think if people have learned anything just in talking to people in our age group, they're like, "Oh, wow, shit, my governor does matter. Oh, the mayor of my town actually has some power. Oh, the city council makes decisions that affect my lives. The school board matters." So people have woken up to the fact that their local quote leaders should be local servants because we elect
Yeah.
them.
Elected
They
officials.
they're elected officials. They actually matter, right? And so people are starting to realize the importance of being involved in your local community. I was at our school board meeting last night. Definitely the only dude who looked like me that was there, but it's just important because you're sitting there and you're listening to these. There was some teachers from one of the middle schools talking about, we want to bring in this new program with this and that, and I'm like, all right, well, that's definitely got roots in critical theories and Marxism, and it's like I would never know any of that shit unless I went to these meetings,
Right.
and now I can stand up and say, hey, here's why I don't think we should, right? And
Right.
like get involved in your schools. If you send your kid to school, a lot of people are homeschooling now. I think it's up to like 5 million in America,
Yeah, it's pretty
but
rad.
yeah, it's rad. Get involved in your kids' schools, get involved in your community, and so here's what I think the progression of a man is. At least this is what I'm trying to do with my life, right? So personal excellence, I better myself. And that's a lifelong journey. That never stops. Well, first, and so I did this a little backwards because I didn't grow up with faith. I found faith way later in life, but it's God, and then it's me, then it's my wife, then it's my kids, then it's my neighbors, but then once I get to a place where I've done some things. I've built and sold a business. I own properties, my family's taken care of. I'm in decent shape for an old dude. Like, okay, what else can I do, right? So obviously I do this as sort of
Right.
just a side thing, but that's not for my community. I mean, it has some effects in my community, but I'm probably going to run for school board. People keep trying to get me to. I'm involved in the local Republican Party because I'm trying to make a lot of changes there. I get involved in local elections. I go to the school board meetings. I go to my kids' school. I know all the teachers. I know most of the parents. Like I'm involved with a lot of local business owners. I support them. It's like become a pillar of your community. I
Yeah.
see as the
Yeah.
next step in manhood, at least on this journey that I'm on. Right. And if more people saw it that way, like, okay, Kennedy said the famous thing, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. But I mean, bring it home.
Oh, hell yeah.
Right? Ask what you can
Hell yeah.
do for your community, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
that's
And
how the world gets better.
like to that's basically what I said earlier. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's and it's like, and you're already living like that. And like, this is the first time we've had this like really deep conversation about it. And that's what I'm trying to do here. And that's the message that I try to spread. Is
Yeah.
like, dude, yeah, if you can influence your family, influence your neighbors, influence your community, and then your community that you've influenced will influence the community next door, and so on and so
Exactly.
forth,
Yep.
right? Like how you can care about the nation as a whole, because we'll never care about the world. The world, that's just too big. We can care about the nation, and how we care about the nation is make sure that your shit is together. Make sure, like Sean Whalen says, your house is in order. If your
Yeah.
house is in order, why the fuck does it matter what's going on in DC?
Yeah. Yeah. I love Sean, man. He's been on the show, dude. He's one of my favorite people, man. But it's true. And it takes guys like us saying that, right?
For
Standing up
sure.
and saying it, and you mentioned Andy earlier. I've been with First Form for many years. Andy's a friend. I talk to him regularly, and this is all the same stuff he says, man. And it's like you want to look at a good example of somebody who's doing that. Look at him. He's at the point now where he's created thousands of jobs for his local community, right? He is a pillar of that community.
100%.
I tell him all the time. I'm trying to get him to run for office, but lately he said I think the last time I was talking to him last week, he's like, these motherfuckers need me in office. And I'm like, don't you tease me, bro. Don't fucking tempt me, because I will help you campaign. But like, those are the types of men that we need to see as leaders, not the people who I had Matt Boudreau on earlier this week. He's Tim Kennedy's business partner
I saw that.
Apogee School. Yeah. So, he gave a great example, right? And he was in this meeting with these guys. One of them was a Yale business professor, right? And he was telling Matt was talking about his business plan for building these schools. He's opening 100 new schools next year. And he's doing amazing shit, him and Tim. And this Yale professor was like, man, I don't think it's not a sound business plan. That model would never work. Plus, the way you're talking about teaching kids, I don't think it's going to be effective or whatever. And Matt says to the guy, and I apologize if you've already listened to this episode and you're listening to this one now, guys, but it's important to reiterate it. He says to the guy who has an MBA and he's a business school professor, he was like, all right, noted. Let me ask you a couple questions real quick. How many successful businesses have you started? And the guy was like, none. And he's like, okay. How many children do you have? The guy was like, none. He's like, okay. So that says it all right there, man. We've got to get away from these career politicians who make it their life goal to be in office. They've never built anything. They've never done anything of value in the world, right? They've never been a true pillar to their community. And that is the crux of it, right? It's in the way I said it to Matt is it's basically is versus ought is what it boils down to, right? So like we operate in what is. We operate in the real world. This is what is. This is how you go out and you build a business. This is how you go out and you raise a family. This is how you go out and you change your community. They operate in the ought world. Well, this is how it ought to be. It's like, bro, you're never going to get anywhere like that. And the university system is completely infiltrated with people like this. That's why I said I would never go back. If I went back, I would never do the degrees.
Yeah.
But be a person, be a man who operates in what is, right? And eventually you can achieve what you think ought to be if something needs to be changed, right?
Right. But it's a progression to there.
Yes.
It's like we're right now, how do we get there? Right. And then it's objective, real steps. And like you said before, it's these people who dedicate their lives to want to be in that position to do that job should
That's
never
the last
fucking
person. Yep.
No, they should never fucking be there. It used to be a civic duty. Everybody had the equal opportunity, not to get into that thing, but everyone was a candidate, right?
Yeah.
You start the local level and then you build yourself up. But now it's like these fucking people, they go to school for political science and shit like that. They're cut in front of everyone, right? Like they're so disconnected from the layman that you don't even know what the fuck you're talking about.
Exactly.
You should be somewhere and doing something, right? Because one, you don't want to be there, but two, you have the insight because you've lived this life, you've lived in the community, you understand what the people in the community want. So you should be representing that community at some point in your life. And then you do your job, then you get the fuck out, and then someone else who was inspired by you comes in and does your job behind you. Like
Exactly. Yeah. You should accomplish something in life operating in the real world as your constituents, your future constituents do, not only to gain insight but to gain experience, right?
yeah,
It should be politics or political office or really service to your community, to your nation, whichever level you want to take it at, should be something that you do once you've accomplished something in life, and
right.
now
Yeah,
you're going to serve, right?
yeah.
In another thing, man, that I wanted to mention earlier, I forgot, like with these octogenarians in office who won't let go of control. Think about it like this, man, and this is what terrifies me, right? Do you want someone making decisions that affects the fate of this nation who aren't even going to be alive to have to endure those effects, right? Like
No.
these people are making decisions that will not affect them.
Yeah,
They're about to die. They're
yeah,
past the average life
yeah.
expectancy.
Well, they're
Like,
trying to suck up as much as they can before they hit the exit. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And it's like, and it's all hindsight shit. It's like that soccer player Laura Rapapone or whatever her name is,
Megan
who's
Rapinoe. Yeah,
Megan. Yeah, she's advocating for boys to play with girls,
and
like
she's
because
not going to have to deal with that
she's not
shit.
gonna have to fucking deal with it. That
Yeah,
the one time that the women's team did play a boys team, they played a 15-year-old fucking team and got smashed.
I love this example. Yeah,
But you want boys and girls at the same age up to the professional level. You want boys to be able to play with girls. That does. You're never going to be affected by that. You're never going to have to take a slide by a fucking 200-pound man who's got a dress on, you know, or get body checked by even somebody your own weight. A man her own weight would body check the fuck out of her.
yeah, because body composition matters. And
Yeah.
hormones matter. And look, another funny example, actually, you just reminded me. We were talking about these funny, street interview people. It's this one is hilarious because this guy's going around. I think it's New York City. I think he's going around NYU's campus, and he's like, "Do you think that WNBA players should get paid as much as NBA players?" And of course, all these liberal female students are like, "Yeah, absolutely." And he's like, "Okay, cool. Name a WNBA team.
Yeah.
Name a WNBA player.
Yeah.
When was the last time you went to a game?"
Yeah.
And then it's like they can't obviously answer any of that. And then he's
Yeah.
like, "Well, can you name an NBA team?" "Oh yeah, the Bulls, the
Yeah.
Clippers, this. Can you? Oh yeah, LeBron, Michael Jordan, blah blah blah." It's like now you see why they don't make as much.
I think that guy actually went to Missouri. Missouri has a team, right?
Dude, beats me. I
don't know. He was somewhere. I thought it was Missouri. He was somewhere. They were standing in front of the arena with with the woman and the team name. And he's looking at it. He's like, "You can't name one team player on the local team, not one." And she's like, "No."
Well, that's more a testament to lack of awareness of your
Yeah.
fucking surroundings and
Yeah.
intelligence levels. But man, it's so funny that I don't know. It's just we know what needs to be done.
Yeah.
We know
Yeah.
we know what we want this place to look like, and we know the solution. Now it just comes down to, and I'm talking especially to you men listening, comes down to you guys getting up off your ass and executing.
100%. 100%.
So, all right. No, go ahead, man. Go.
So I have a thing. It's a VPE. It's visualize where you want to be. Visualize the thing that you want to happen. Then you have to prepare yourself. Prepare yourself, prepare others around you. And then, like you said, you have to fucking execute. Because the V and the P without execution is just a dream.
Yeah.
Right. The visualize, the preparing, you could visualize and prepare all day long, but it's the execution and the follow through that matters.
Right.
And what we need to do as men, as leaders, right? Because that's what we are. Women want leaders. Like you're saying, women are having a hard time to find a man to open a door and to do all these things. We need to bring that back. And we need to be leaders in our community, in our families. And we need to execute the things that we want to execute. We need to stop talking and just having conversations like you're doing, like I'm doing, like Andy's doing, Sean's doing. Those guys are way ahead of us, or at least me. You're doing great things. But I need to get on that level. And how am I going to get on that level? I'm going to visualize it. I'm going to prepare myself like I'm doing now, building my brand, trying to get myself on podcasts with, influencers like you who have the same message.
Don't you call me a fucking influencer.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Don't cut it out.
I know what you mean, though. I know what you mean.
Yeah, but talk to you as people and have these conversations and not just talk about, oh my God, there's all this drama going on. There's all this drama, just drama, just drama. Like, fucking, what's the solution?
And by the way, buy my t-shirt and mugs and hats and everything, please.
Yeah. Freetrump.com.
Yeah, right. Yeah, man. No, I agree. And what I think is important is, and we've exemplified it in this conversation, I think, is you got to be critical of both sides. We have to recognize where our quote side falls short and call that shit out too, because
100%.
I think that nothing hurts your cause more than a lack of authenticity. And if you're not being critical of both sides, that just screams that you're inauthentic, because any thinking human is going to be critical of both sides and have criticisms of both sides. And to that end, Mitch McConnell should be out of office. But yeah,
it's like we're doing here. Like, yes, we have a lot of the same views, but I guarantee you there's 2 or 3 things we don't agree on, but we have this open discourse and we're having these conversations, and like the whole pendulum thing, like, you don't think it's going to swing back that far? And I'm like, I think it could have the possibility to swing this far. And we're like, yeah, I can see your point, and I can see your point. It's like, that's what it's about, right? It's
yeah.
Like,
and look,
like you,
I
was going to say, I'm sorry. I'm just going to say, like you, I'm more of a right libertarian. I'm not conservative. I don't understand what that word means. I don't believe in the traditional thing either. There is some progression that needs to happen, which puts me in the libertarian, the middle somewhere. But
yeah. I mean, look, I'm a constitutionalist. I'm an America first.
There you go. That's
person,
what I
right?
am.
Because here's my thing with conservatism. I wouldn't mind calling myself a conservative if certain conditions were met, because the definition of conservative is those who want to conserve what's been established, right? I don't want to conserve what we have right now. It needs to change, right? It needs to get better. And so I made a tweet that really pissed a lot of people off, like last year. I was like, the goal of every liberal should be to become a conservative. And people didn't understand what I meant. And I meant that means, or no, I said every progressive should aim to be a conservative. And what I meant in that is, if you're a progressive, you got all these things you want to accomplish to make the world a better place and blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's say they all happen. At that point, you should be a conservative, because you want to conserve all those things you put in place, right? But, and of course, I did it a little bit to because I knew it would piss people off who don't understand the definitions. But that's where I am with the whole conservative versus progressive thing versus, I mean, it's all relative. It's all relative to the current state of the nation, right? So to speak in more absolute terms, I'm a constitutionalist. I believe in American exceptionalism. And by the way, the founding fathers knew that American exceptionalism really just meant that we understand as humans that we aren't exceptional. That's why they put all those safeguards
100%.
in place.
100%.
Right? So that's what I believe, man. I believe in faith, family, community, working hard and supporting your neighbors once you've supported.
You got to send me your address. I got a shirt for you.
Hell yeah, dude. I'll rock it.
It's faith, family, freedom, and firearms.
That is my ideology. That's perfect.
Send me your address. I'm gonna get that to you. What size are you?
2X.
Cool.
Throw fitness in there, and
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man.
For sure.
All right, bro. Look, I've really enjoyed this, man. I'd love to have you back on, or maybe come on. I don't know if you have guests on your show often, or if you do more, monologue style stuff mostly, or
I'm stuck in monologue right now because I don't have anybody to reach out to.
Oh, dude, we can change that.
Hell yeah, man. Let's do this again.
We'll change. I'll put you in touch with some good dudes who will definitely come on and have a conversation with you. But
I appreciate that, man.
Corey, where can people go to find you, to listen to your show, to get in touch with you if they want to lambaste you for being an ultra right-wing Nazi, whatever?
So my podcast is Faith Over Fear, or FOF Society. I think it's Faith Over Fear Society. My Instagram for that is FOF_society. And I'm on Instagram is Corey_Turner85. Yeah, and I'm on all platforms, Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.
Right on.
So
that I like the hat and the shirt. Do you sell that stuff, or did you just make that for yourself?
no, this is the brand. So I have this. So right now we're actually in the process of getting 5 more designs. I'll shoot them over to you because I think they're pretty badass. We make everything in house. We just bought a heat press. We're about to order like 500 shirts, and so the shirts I have right now is the Faith Over Fear. This is the OGT. I have one more. I think I have one more camo hat, and then I have the Faith, Family, Freedom, and Firearm shirt. Oh, and I have a tank top that says "Live Free," and it's got the flag behind it. So,
yeah, hell yeah, dude. I know a lot of guys who would rock that shit, so I'll help you. I'll help you push it to the masses, and especially since you're starting an apparel brand, man. You should have Sean on. You should have Ian Went, who owns Official Patriot Gear. He's an awesome dude. You'd have a great conversation with him. Seth Feroci was an awesome guest I had on. He's such a good ass dude. He's so just a quick aside about him, because I just love the guy so much. You know who Seth is, right? He has he's former pro bodybuilder. He has he's got a supplement line, Axe and Sledge, and he's got a clothing line. I mean, he's a massively successful guy. So anyway, he's got a huge following. He's way bigger than I am, but I did his show and we, kept in touch. We're friends, and a buddy of mine was such a big fan of like what Seth has to say in his brand that he literally got a fucking tattoo of the dude's logo on his bicep.
Oh shit. That's right.
And yeah. And, he's never met Seth. I don't even know if he knew that I know him. And he like posted a picture on Facebook of what he got. It's HWMF, hardworking motherfucker is his brand.
That's badass.
And I messaged Seth and I sent him the picture. I was like, check this out, bro. I was like, dude, it would mean the world to me if you recorded a short video saying happy birthday to my friend, because he got the tattoo for his birthday.
Yeah.
And Seth was like, fuck that. Give me his phone number. I gave him his phone number. Dude, Seth FaceTimed him. My friend texted me later and he was like, you motherfucker. He was like, I just got off a FaceTime with Seth Feroci. He's like, I don't even know what to say. But that's how good of a dude Seth is. So he would be a great guy for your show. I can send you a list of people, man.
For sure. Yeah. I'm looking at him right now. He is fucking jacked, bro.
Yeah, he's jacked.
Holy shit.
Fellow gymnastics dad. So
nice.
yeah, he's a badass for sure, man. But
sweet.
Keep doing it, brother. You stand for the right things.
Cool.
I love everything you're doing, man. And if I can do anything to help, just holler.
For sure, brother. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you.
You got it, man. All you listeners out there, I love you. And as always, keep your minds free.